We wanted to find the 10 richest Jewish family businesses in North Carolina. Simple enough, right? We figured we'd find a story about modern billionaires, tech moguls, and hedge fund titans building a new South. We went looking for the names on the tallest skyscrapers, the families with sprawling estates, the kind of dynasties you read about in financial journals. But the real story, the one that's been almost completely forgotten, isn't about today's billionaires. It's about the empires that built the state and then vanished. This is not the story we set out to tell. It's the story we found. A story of fortunes made and lost, of communities built and then quietly erased by time. This is the story of North Carolina's forgotten Jewish dynasties. And the shocking truth isn't who's on the list of the richest, but why almost none of them are left. Section 1. The modern exception that reveals the rule. Before we go back in time, we have to talk about the name that dominates any conversation about wealth and philanthropy in North Carolina today: Levine. Leon Levine, the visionary founder of Family Dollar, created a retail empire that became a household name across America. Born in Wadesboro in 1937, Levine was the son of a small-town merchant. He learned the business from the ground up, but he had a vision that went way beyond a single shop. In 1959, at just 22 years old, he opened the first Family Dollar in Charlotte. His idea was revolutionary: sell quality goods for under $2. He wanted to serve the low and middle-income families that other stores often overlooked. That idea was a rocket ship. Family Dollar exploded across the country, growing from one storefront into a retail behemoth. When the Levine family sold the chain, the deal was valued in the billions. This is the kind of story we expected to find: a modern, multi-billion-dollar enterprise still shaping the state. And in a way, it is, but not as a family business. The business was sold. The family's influence now flows through the Leon Levine Foundation. After Leon Levine's passing in 2023, the foundation's assets grew to a staggering $2 billion, making it the second largest private foundation in North Carolina. But here's the twist that sets up our whole story. Leon laid down a rule that the foundation must spend all its money and shut down within 50 years of his death. It's a concept called legacy with urgency. The point isn't to last forever, but to pour every single dollar back into the Carolinas. The Levine family is a modern picture of incredible success, but their story, a family business sold off, its wealth turned into a philanthropic mission with a deadline, is the final chapter of a book whose earlier pages have been almost entirely ripped out. To find the real story of Jewish wealth in North Carolina, we have to go back, way back. Section 2. Where the horse died: the birth of the merchant class. There's an old saying among Southern Jews that explains how their families ended up in all these tiny, scattered towns. They settled where the horse died. It sounds like a folktale, but it explains a profound historical truth. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Jewish immigrants arrived in America fleeing poverty and persecution. Many started their new lives not in big cities, but as traveling peddlers. With a pack on their back or a horse-drawn cart, they spread out across the rural South, bringing goods and news to isolated farming communities. They sold everything from pots and pans to needles and thread. They were a walking, talking general store. For these immigrants, peddling was one of the only jobs available. Often barred from owning land or joining established trades back home, they turned to commerce. They learned the roads, the people, and what folks needed. And when it was time to stop wandering, when the horse gave out, they'd saved enough, or they found a town that felt like home, they'd open a store. This is how the North Carolina Jewish business empire began. It wasn't built on land or factories at first. It was built on dry goods, clothes, and shoes. It was built on a peddler's gut instinct and a reputation for being fair. From these humble starts, dynasties would rise, and the foundation for fortunes that would shape North Carolina for a century. This is our real top 10 list, not a ranking of who has the most money today, but a journey into the forgotten empires that built the state and the mystery of why they disappeared. Section 3. Number 10. The Patterson family, the tenacity of a Hendersonville merchant. Our journey starts in the mountains of Hendersonville with a story of pure grit. The Patterson family's fortune wasn't a smooth ride. It was built, lost, and rebuilt through sheer force of will. The story is a bit tangled, a perfect example of how history can get blurry. One thread starts in 1906 when H. Patterson opened a small dry goods store. He was hit by one disaster after another: illness, a national financial panic in 1907, and a business failure. He started over, did enough to pay back his old debt, but was wiped out again when a lender called in a loan unexpectedly. Left with nothing, he opened a simple cleaning and pressing club and clawed his way back, eventually relaunching a full department store. Another thread mentions a Harry Patterson, a Russian immigrant who opened a mercantile store in 1928, whose son later expanded the family business. These are likely intertwined branches of the same ambitious family tree that put down deep roots in Hendersonville. The exact details are lost to time, but the theme is the same: relentless ambition. The Pattersons became pillars of Hendersonville, known for their hard work and unfailing nerve, and their generosity. But today, that mercantile empire is a ghost. The department stores are gone. Their story is number 10 because it's a perfect snapshot of the merchant's journey: the struggle, the success against all odds, becoming part of a community, and then the quiet fading of a family business into local history. Next, we head east to the coastal plains in the town of Kinston, where the Brody family built a retail dynasty synonymous with high fashion in eastern North Carolina. The story starts in South Carolina, but the family's North Carolina chapter kicked off in 1928 when Leo Brody established Brody Brothers Dry Goods in Kinston. This wasn't a one-man show, it was a family enterprise. Leo and his 6 brothers worked as a team, collaborating on buying and marketing to build their brand. The Kinston store was just the start. They expanded to Greenville, Rocky Mount, Goldsboro, and New Bern. The Brody brothers were deeply patriotic. 6 of them served in World War II. They returned to pour their energy back into the business, and it flourished. For decades, if you were shopping for a special occasion in eastern North Carolina, you went to Brody's. By the time the chain was acquired, it had 6 major stores in malls, commanding over 275,000 square feet of prime retail space. But like so many others, the business itself is gone. The stores were sold in 1998 to profits, and then some of those locations were acquired by Belk in 2005. The family's focus shifted from retail to philanthropy. The Brody name is now most famous not on a storefront, but on the Brody School of Medicine at East Carolina University, a testament to their immense contributions. The Brody empire was absorbed by larger national chains, a classic story of retail consolidation. The family's influence didn't vanish, but it transformed. The business that made them a household name is now a memory, a pattern we're going to see over and over again. The story of the Letter brothers shows how these family businesses grew, not just through one person's ambition, but through a powerful web of kinship. The Letters were related to the Linewand family, who we'll meet later, and this network of cousins and brothers created a commercial powerhouse. Herman Letter, with family ties in Elizabethtown, built one of the most successful retail operations in the region. At its peak, the Letter Brothers department store chain had an incredible 25 stores scattered across the South. This wasn't a modern franchise, it was more like a chain migration of businesses. A successful merchant in one town would help a relative set up a store in the next town over, sharing knowledge, credit, and even inventory. The heart of the Letter operation was connected to Whiteville, North Carolina, and from there, their influence spread across the Carolinas. These stores weren't just places to buy things, they were the social and economic hearts of their towns. So where are those 25 stores today? Gone. The chain, once a sprawling empire, has effectively vanished. Why? The answer, so often, was the next generation. As the 20th century moved on, the children and grandchildren of these merchants went to college. They became doctors and lawyers. They moved to bigger cities. The appeal of running a store on Main Street in a small southern town just wasn't there anymore. The Letter Brothers empire didn't crash and burn, it just dissolved, store by store, as family members retired or moved on with no one to take over. It's a powerful reminder that a family business needs a chain of succession, and when that chain breaks, the empire fades. In post-Civil War North Carolina, Goldsboro was a town of huge opportunity, and nobody seized it like the Weil brothers. They didn't just build a business, they built a city. The story starts in Germany. The sons of Jakob Weil immigrated to America to escape anti-Semitism and find economic opportunity. In 1865, just 2 months after Sherman's army marched through, brothers opened H. Weil and Bros in Goldsboro. They wrote "mit Gott," with God, in their first ledger. Their general store was a hit. With a reputation for honesty, the shop grew into a major department store and a trading hub for eastern North Carolina. By 1900, their business was doing $1 million in annual sales, a mind-boggling sum for the time. But the Weils didn't stop there. For 2 decades, a Weil was involved in starting nearly every major new business in Goldsboro. They were into cotton, real estate, brickyards, banks, and more. When the local synagogue was founded in 1883, Solomon Weil was an organizer. They even donated Herman Park to the city. The Weils were not just merchants, they were civic architects. They built the city's tallest building. Today, the Weil department store is gone. Their huge portfolio of businesses is gone. But what's left is Goldsboro itself. The parks, the banks, the very layout of downtown still bear their mark. Their legacy also lives on through the Weil Lectures on American Citizenship at the University of North Carolina, a prestigious series that continues to this day. The Weils show the ultimate potential of a family business, not just to create wealth, but to build a community from the ground up. While the Weils were building Goldsboro, an even more dominant commercial takeover was happening in the port city of Wilmington. After the Civil War, Jewish merchants came to completely control the city's wholesale and retail world. At the center of it was the Reinstein family. Their department store was a giant of local commerce, but they weren't alone. By the late 19th century, Jewish-owned businesses made up over 60% of all dry goods stores in Wilmington. They ran the city's wholesale shoe trade. A prominent Jewish businessman, Nathaniel Jacoby, was a hardware magnate and a director of one of the city's main banks. By 1894, every single wholesale firm in Wilmington was owned by Jewish families. Think about that. In the state's biggest port city, the entire wholesale sector, the critical link that moved goods from ships to stores, was in the hands of this small community of entrepreneurs. They were the forgotten Wall Street of North Carolina, built on textiles and shoes, not stocks and bonds. Yet, if you walk through historic Wilmington today, you won't find Reinsteins or any of the others. These names, which once commanded the city's economy, have vanished. Their businesses fell victim to the same forces that took down the inland empires, the rise of national corporations that bypassed the old wholesale system and the next generation leaving for other professions. The story of Wilmington's merchants shows just how complete this disappearance was. They didn't just own a few stores, they owned the entire game.
Section 8, Number 5. The Asheville Hub, a mountain of merchants. Just as Wilmington was the hub on the coast, Asheville became the center for Jewish life and business in the mountains. Between the 1880s and the 1980s, an estimated 450 Jewish merchants operated in the city, but one name stands out: Tops for Shoes. Founded in 1952 by Louis and Sylvia Resnikoff, Tops was a family affair from day one. They built a reputation for quality, and the business was eventually passed down to their daughter, Ellen Carr, and her husband, Bob. The Carrs had a bigger vision. They started buying up buildings around them, expanding the store from 3,000 square feet to a 30,000 square foot shoe paradise. Tops became the largest shoe store in the Southeast, a destination famous for its massive selection. Now here's the twist. Unlike almost every other business on this list, Tops for Shoes is still here. It's still operating downtown, and it's still a family business, now run by Alex Carr, the third generation. So why is a surviving business on a list of forgotten empires? Because Tops is a living fossil, Its survival highlights just how striking the absence of its competitors is. Where are the hundreds of other Jewish-owned shops that once thrived beside it? They're gone. Tops for Shoes survived because the family succession never broke. Each generation chose to stay, innovate, and reinvest. They are a living link to a world that has otherwise completely vanished, and a powerful reminder of the mountain of merchants whose own businesses have long since closed their doors. Section 9. Number 4. The Last Men Standing, the Linewans of Elizabethtown. Now we go to a small town, Elizabethtown, for what might be the most poignant story of all. The family's journey started in 1907 when Isaac Linewand emigrated from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Like many, he opened a small store. Then the Great Depression hit, and he just lost everything. But he had family. A brother helped him start over, and in 1935, Isaac opened Linewands in Elizabethtown. Just 4 years later, a fire destroyed the new store. Again, with his brother's help, Isaac rebuilt. It's a miracle they are still in business. His son Wallace, and later his grandson Ricky, understood how to survive as a Jewish family in a small southern town. You have to be part of the community. They didn't just run the store, they ran for office. Wallace became the mayor. Ricky served on the town council. They became the voice of the high school football team. As Ricky Linewand puts it, "We didn't hide, we gave back to the community." But even that couldn't stop the tide of history. One by one, the other Jewish-owned department stores in the region closed down. Owners retired, kids moved away, and big-box stores killed Main Street. Today, Linewands of Elizabethtown is believed to be the only surviving Jewish-owned clothing store from that entire, once-thriving network. Handling the technology needed to survive today, the Linewands are the last men standing, a living monument to a vanished world. Their story, as Ricky says, is not just me and my family, it's the story of Jewish people in the South. And today, it's the final, lonely chapter. Section 10. Number 3. The Corporate Titans, Pick and Pay, and Tanger. While many families built their empires store by store, a few took their businesses to a national scale, becoming pioneers of modern corporate retail. Their names might not be on the stores anymore, but the business models they created changed America. First, there's Pick and Pay Shoes. This Charlotte-based chain, founded by a Jewish family, revolutionized the self-service shoe store. They offered value and volume, becoming a staple in shopping centers across the Southeast. Their model was so successful that they were eventually acquired by a larger corporation, and their name was absorbed. Then there's the one you definitely know, Tanger. In 1981, Stanley K. Tanger opened a small outlet mall in Burlington. The idea was simple but brilliant. Create a dedicated shopping center where brands could sell their surplus goods directly to the public at a discount. This was the birth of the modern outlet mall. From that one location, Tanger outlet malls grew into a publicly traded real estate giant. The name Tanger basically became another word for outlet shopping. These companies represent the next step in the merchant story. They moved beyond the family department store and into the world of corporate finance and national branding. But even then, the end of their story follows a familiar pattern. Pick and Pay was assimilated. And while the Tanger brand is a huge company, its identity as a family-run business has transformed into a complex corporate structure.
At number 2 is an empire so huge it didn't just build a city, it clothed the world. This is the story of the Cone family of Greensboro and their textile dynasty, a powerhouse built on a simple, rugged fabric, denim. The story starts with Herman Cone, whose name was later changed to Cone. His sons, Moses and Caesar Cone, traveled the South as salesmen. They realized they could make a killing selling textiles, so in 1891 they formed the Cone Export and Commission Company, quickly becoming the biggest brokers in the southern textile industry. But being middlemen wasn't enough. They wanted to make the fabric themselves. They moved to Greensboro and in 1895 built their first factory, Proximity Cotton Mills. In 1905, they built the jewel in their crown, the White Oak Mill. It was destined to become the largest and most famous denim plant in the world. By 1908, Cone Mills was the biggest denim producer on the planet. Their most famous deal was with a small San Francisco company called Levi Strauss & Co. Starting in 1915, the white oak plant became the exclusive supplier of the legendary denim for Levi's 501 jeans. For the next century, if you wore a pair of Levi's, you were wearing cone denim from Greensboro. The decline was slow, then fast. After decades of fighting foreign competition, Cone Mills filed for bankruptcy in 2003. Then, in 2017, the unthinkable happened. The White Oak Mill, the cathedral of American denim, closed its doors for good. The looms fell silent. The Cone Empire was arguably the greatest Jewish-founded business in North Carolina history. They weren't just merchants, they were global industrialists. Their story represents the absolute peak of that industrial power, and its end, with bankruptcy and the closing of that legendary mill, is the most dramatic disappearance of them all. We started this journey looking for the 10 richest Jewish family businesses in North Carolina. We've uncovered incredible stories of merchants and industrialists, but now we're at number 1, and this is the most important part of the story. The shocking truth isn't who is number 1. It's the fact that we can't finish the list. We can't find 10 or even a handful of currently operating multi-generational Jewish family businesses in North Carolina that rank among the state's wealthiest. The real story is the disappearance itself. So, why did they all vanish? It was a perfect storm. First, you had the Walmart effect. The rise of big box stores was a death blow for the Main Street department store. Family shops just couldn't compete on price. Second, there was a massive economic shift. The textile industry that families like the Cones built their fortunes on moved overseas. The mills closed and the foundation of that wealth crumbled. Third, and maybe the most powerful reason, was success itself. The founders' success gave their children and grandchildren opportunities they never dreamed of. They sent them to top universities. The next generation became doctors, lawyers, and artists. They moved to bigger cities to chase new dreams. The passion for running a store in a small town didn't always get passed down. Finally, the tight-knit communities dissolved. As the younger generations left, the small-town Jewish communities that supported these businesses dwindled. A synagogue in Whiteville, a town central to our story, was forced to close its doors in 2020 because they no longer gather a minyan, the quorum of 10 men needed for prayer. The story of Jewish wealth in North Carolina is a ghost story. The great family businesses are phantoms that haunt the main streets of towns across the state. Their names are carved on buildings whose purpose has long since changed. Their fortunes were built on a world that just doesn't exist anymore. The real legacy isn't a list of the 10 richest families today. It's written into the DNA of North Carolina itself, in the universities they endowed, the cities they built, and the foundations they established. If you found this dive into North Carolina's hidden history as fascinating as we did, please subscribe and share this video. These stories deserve to be remembered. Click subscribe for more deep dives into the histories that shape our world. Our search for a simple list revealed a lost chapter of the American South. The empires of the Cones, the Weils, the Brodys, and so many others rose with incredible speed, fueled by immigrant ambition. They turned rural outposts into thriving towns and laid the groundwork for the modern North Carolina economy. Their disappearance wasn't a story of failure, but of transformation. It's a story of a world that changed so completely that the very business model that created these fortunes became obsolete. So, what's the real measure of a legacy? Is it a business that lasts forever, or the impact that wealth has on the world long after the business is gone? The lasting impact of these families is seen not in the stores they ran, but in the medical schools, university programs, and foundations that still bear their names. The wealth didn't vanish, it was absorbed into the bedrock of the state, enriching lives in ways the founders could never have imagined. The empires are gone, but the legacy is everywhere.